All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Another crazy, awesome writing advice video. Great, amazing, huge, great, you. Now, I'm just going off the dome here, just kind of piggybacking off the last video that I was hanging out with. So I had Bright Dreadful Sun, quick plug, obviously, Not Every Star in the Night, horror book, second book written. Oh my goodness gracious. So what are we talking about, huh? How's a guy like me end up writing a horror book when I love funny comedies, stoner comedies and all that? So this comes from a psychology perspective, okay? So I'm a psychology major licensed. So what do we do here, okay? How am I going to help you write good horror, okay? Well, I'm a big fan of Stephen King and Lovecrafting. So what are we going to do here? Okay, so when you're writing horror, just going to throw out some tips here, just random, no rhyme or reason. So when you're writing horror, from a psychological perspective, humans fear the unknown, okay? And that's basically where a lot of our fears stem from, the subconscious mind. It isn't like we're actively afraid of a lot of things. So there's the fear of the dark is a completely irrational fear. So it's not necessarily we fear the unknown. And why do we fear the unknown? Is because there's hereditary baggage, I guess I would call it. Residual hereditary baggage, I guess I'm going to coin it, is basically we used to live in a society where you could get murdered like any freaking second. You could get bit by a lion even further down the line. Nowadays, we don't live in a society like this. It's very odd that we have these residual fears happening here. So what is that? Okay, we fear the unknown. Of course, obviously, people fear death, okay, because we don't know what's going to happen when you die. Now, there are maybe some stragglers that just really don't care. Like me, I'm not really afraid of too many things because I understand what, of course, I'm afraid of, what am I afraid of? I'm not afraid of public speaking, okay? I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of, what's the word here? I'm not afraid of anything, you know what I mean? And why is that? Because I understand the human mind. I don't care about death or decay. And I think that's where a lot of good horror comes from, you know? Also, at the same time, I have like crazy vivid dreams. Like I have a lot of really vivid dreams. And that's kind of like where a lot of Not Every Star in the Night came from. But yeah, so when you're writing horror, you got to understand the unknown. You got to understand the subconscious and understand the residual hereditary traits that we have, that how irrational are our fears. Look at like the most commonly reported horrible fears. Public speaking. You know, back in the day, you could be a preacher, a prophet, and you get stabbed. Even nowadays, you could be ostracized from the community. I don't know, but that's basically the worst you have, and it's an irrational fear. So how do you apply that to your characters? Well, you give them irrational fears because we know that they have them. You know what I mean? So, yeah. The unknown, characters fear the unknown, but how can we elevate that? Okay, it's like now we know that characters fear the unknown because we fear the unknown. It stems down from that. It stems from the lack of control, and I think that's where a lot of good horror comes from, when the characters don't have control. We strive for control in our lives. We want to basically maybe, especially when you don't have control over yourself. You know what I mean? When you're a slave to your habits, when you're a slave to your lifestyle, and when you're a slave to everything around you, you know what I mean? You're going to be afraid. And so like a lack of control is there with your characters. Another thing that helps is falling in love. You learn your fundamentals. Learn how to create a character that is memorable, unique, and relatable. And once the characters really latch onto that, know that moment when the reader is like people that actually going to sit down and really read it. Know that moment where they're going to fall in love with the characters. You want characters not only that people remember, you want characters that people love. That's the thing. So unique characteristics are important. Now, what do we do with that? Okay, now the reader loves the character. In horror, you strip away that control from them. Like you hurt them. You like take your love and you create characters you love and you put them in horrible situations. And I think that advice came from Stephen King directly. Maybe it's just stuck up here, but it just rang with me. Create characters you love and put them in horrible situations. Now, supernatural, paranormal, where does that stem from? The unknown. We don't know because death can get us at any moment. You know what I mean? I've had near-death experiences. You know what I mean? I've been close to death before, and it's not a comfortable place to be near. But once you're there, once you've kind of scoured, I'm not going to say what I particularly went through, but once you've gotten to that point, you're fearless. You know what I mean? You're fearless. Some people, they rely heavily on, let's say, concepts like religion, like maybe they have basically something to latch onto. They have like a help up. That helps too, you know, and that's something with this book too. I made religion a big, heavy concept because you give them that, you give and take a lot. You say, here's the way out. And then you smack them in the face and say, bitch, too bad. You know what I mean? Oh, sorry for swearing. You just basically, you give them everything they want and then you just say no. you know, and you say no, and then you hurt them. You know, horror does come from a dark place inside yourself. Because when you're writing a horror book, there's a few different types of authors that are just like, you know what I mean? And then there's authors that put their heart and soul into their writing. You know what I mean? And once you come down to it, you've got to have that. And this is what Carl Jung, and back to some college psychology. Carl Jung has coined this the shadow. Okay, the shadow is basically that darkest evil part of ourselves. You know what I mean? It's the things we are constantly trying to stuff away. We're constantly just trying to push beneath the surface here. And that's Luna. She's over here. We're constantly trying to battle the shadow. It's not we're trying to. We are constantly battling the shadow. Out of all the tens of thousands of thoughts we have a day, we're constantly at battle with our shadow. And that's why you see a lot of good things. So what does that happen? If you want to write great horror, you've got to have that part of yourself that like literally like doesn't mind hurting somebody. Like you got to have that part of yourself that has been near fights. You got to have that part of yourself that literally has, how can I say this? The capacity to do what you shouldn't do. And we all have the capacity. And this is what Carl Jung is talking about. Every single person, probably even you now, are saying like, well, dude, you're crazy. Don't do that. You know what I mean? You have it too. You have that darkness. And when you're writing horror, you bring that out. I mean, again, there's the third type of author that just understands the fundamentals and understands these concepts and doesn't put their heart and soul to it. They're good at writing. You bring that in as well, but you got to really channel that dark part of yourself. And you know what? It's not a problem. You know what I mean? Because I feel like and this is how Carl Jung addresses this, you can't bury this. This is something you need to bring out. And this is great for writers too, because especially for horror writers, you could really bring out that dark part of yourself. You know, we know that that's not appropriate. We know we're not supposed to, like let's say murder, like I'm never going to murder somebody, but you have the capacity to, because in case of flight or flight, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? What are you going to sit there and get smacked around a little bit? Yeah, I've been into some stuff before. I've gotten into a lot of stuff before. So what are you going to do here? You got to do what you got to do. So bring out that dark part of yourself. Don't be afraid of it, especially when you're writing. You bring emotion to paper. That's what you got to do. You got to really put that darkness inside of the book. And when you do that, you're releasing that from yourself and putting it within the midst of the action here. So let's go. Let's look at Not Every Star of the Night. I think I did the plot structure with this book, but let's break down the main character, Malcolm. Malcolm is a wonderful, cool dude. Not really. Malcolm is like, he's been victimized. He's been beaten by his father a lot. I'm going to go too into this. His mother has died. He's basically a person who struggles with escapism. Okay, and escapism is basically when you've had so many bad things happen to you, and this they say this about comedians too, and I think it's a little bit true for authors too, that they escape through their craft, and that ends up elevating their thing because it comes from a real place. People want you to be real. They don't want you to screw around. They want you to like really bring it out. You know what I mean? Go ahead. And when I read a book, and especially a horror book, I don't want to read a faker. I want to read somebody who has the capacity to do something crazy. And Lovecraft came from that place, I think, a lot, especially since he was so afraid. He was damn near afraid of everything. He's a frail man. Like, and then you see Stephen King, I believe he said he has like a lot of nightmares. I'm that way too, But what was I gonna say? Yeah, so Malcolm, he's a sad dude, you know what I mean? He just wants to escape. And that escapism is literally ultimately what not only dooms him, it dooms his best friends as well. Jennifer and Jeremiah. These are characters that I love so much. And it's like, I don't know, maybe other authors will understand how much they love their characters. You know what I mean? It's like, you wish you could like go in there and hang out with them. And then it's like taking your best friend and like stabbing them like over and over and over and laughing the whole time. You know what I mean? That's, well, maybe you shouldn't know. Maybe you shouldn't know what I mean. But, that's what I did with Malcolm. Like, I felt so sorry for him. I felt like I was so sorry for this character. And then I'm taking it and then beating him with a stick. So literally this book, I recommend you read it for two reasons. Number one, it's my book. Yeah, we're great. But number two, it's actually a book that has a lot of legitimacy and it has a lot of good concepts where you can learn and understand what we're bringing out. Because it doesn't come out in I'm gonna stab like a generic stabber thriller stabby type of novel. No, this is a novel that really brings out this darkness in unique ways. I tried every step of the way to make something unique. Oh, you see the aliens. The aliens are crazy. I think out of all the fears, I fear aliens because I think that's like kind of the coolest fear in my weird opinion. Because you never know, because there's so many etheric and ultimate concepts that are just thrown into this novel. It's just so awesome. Like there's concepts about cattle. You know, like I had this crazy idea too that I was like, okay, what if aliens did what we do to animals except to us? You know, so that's kind of a huge big theme in the story, and it's a lot about themes too. You know, um, there's a lot of paranormal. Okay, you could write a lot of paranormal fiction. You could write a supernatural fiction. I wrote a medical fiction, and it's based off my personal experience. So, with that being said, that came out in an interesting way because I channeled at the time when I had the brain tumor, when I was gonna, I could have died. I channeled that, and that's how Mason became a character. He's not. And another thing that kind of helps too is kind of bringing yourself into the mix or bringing people you love into the mix. People that you've got to come from a real place. It can't come from bullshit. And that's all writing. Go ahead and be another just kind of what's the word here? A fluffer. I guess go ahead and fluff. But it's not even about being a star. It's not even about being a bestseller. It's about being real. Because then that brings out that inner alchemy inside you. And then that shows to other people, and then you help them as well. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, those are my slice of how to write horror. In a little bit, man, I could keep on moving, but yeah, these videos are all off the dome, and I could just keep rambling for hours, but I'm not going to. Keep it real, write from the heart and soul, and don't be afraid of that darkness. You know what I mean? Do not ever be afraid of that darkness. Use it for your advantage, because that's how you can stop getting. This is also my little psychology coming out with you. I'm also a hypnotherapist too, which is kind of I got to deal with all of this. But anyways, my point is, don't be afraid of that darkness. Okay, don't be afraid of it. Don't. The key to defeating a lot of these problems you have in life is conquering the shadow. So maybe read up on some Carl Jung, understand some more psychology, and don't be afraid to put that in your writing, because this is a little modem. This is a modality for you to really bring out that inner alchemy within yourself and say, you know what, whatever I don't control, I'm going to put in my writing. And then that gives you also a sense of control within the lack of control. It's kind of weird. And that finds balance in your life. Woosah. Yeah, keep it real. Like, subscribe. If you made it to the end of the video, great. I love you. And keep it real. Write horror if that's your thing. And put yourself into it. And put the people you love into it. And then destroy them. And don't be afraid of the darkness. Don't be afraid of the darkness. Don't be afraid. Because it's irrational. The majority of our fears are irrational. Peace.